You dreamed of. Don't you know that I'll be there for you? Send me the pillow that you dreamed of. So darling, I want to dream of it too. Taimi uma, Delsa Atoa Moe, so atasi, male, mafai. I owe it honey. Say to my luna, say yo miti la belle, oh lava, la only Tenofo, male polonga, olo ulo sui. E a oma, fau fau, ia te oe, e aluaso. Sawaso e pule lava ue. Hola ele mafai langalo ue. Hola ele mafai langalo oe. Ola upele ele mafai langalo
Talofa, kia ora, malolele, bula, and aloha, my Pasifika people. Henry Manusamoa Sataraka here with Sonai, Pasifika stories told by Pasifika people. Like, follow, and share our Facebook and Instagram pages, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay connected. It's our pleasure to have you all. Afio mai, matala mai ao. See you at Sonai. Today's episode on Tonai features Lai's very own Leafionga Tangaloa Toa Delsa Atoa Moe. Delsa, as she is commonly referred to, was raised in the independent country of Samoa. Her roots derive from the villages of Safune, a soldier center for the past 43 years. In her earlier years at PCC, Delsa served as an MC, cultural guide, and a member of the brass band. She has held countless management positions in guest services, sales, marketing, and theater. She is most recognizable to our Pasifika community as the master of ceremony for the annual We Are Samoa Festival and the World Fire Night competition. Her passion and drive to preserve and perpetuate our Pasifika cultures has earned her a seat at various prestigious events, such as the Miss Pacific Islands pageant and the Pacific Arts Festival. Delsa is a Red Raider for life and a true Laie girl through and through. She is married to Sinapati Moe of Falinu American Samoa and is the mother of 5 and the proud grandmother of 9. Leafionga ya Tangaloa Toa Delsa Atoa Moe is definitely a pillar of our Pasifika community.
Talofa lava, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're here with the beautiful Leafionga ya Tangaloa Toa Delsa Atoa Moe here at the beautiful Polynesian Culture Center. I want to take this time to thank her. Thank you so much, Delsa, for being here today. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule so that you can share with us and share with our Samoan people, our Pasifika people, as we just have a talk story today. If you'd like to address our community, this would probably be the time.
Malo, soifua, talo falava to all of our family and friends wherever you're tuning in. Always a pleasure to talk story and help our Polynesian people.
Great, thank you again. So Delsa, if you don't mind me calling you Delsa.
No, go ahead, okay? That's fine.
Okay. A lot of our people here in the state of Hawaii know you for the various things you do with our Samoan community. But I wanted to just ask you if you could kindly just share your outlook on your childhood and probably where you grew up at, where you're from, and share a little bit about that information with our guest this evening.
Sure. I'm affectionately known as Afakasi. My mother is Palangi from Blackfoot, Idaho, of all places. My dad is Samoan, so I tell people I'm half taro, half potato. Oh. I'm very proud of my mixed roots, and born and raised in Samoa. A lot of people are surprised when they hear that. You know, they think, well, first of all, they say I don't look Samoan, I look Hawaiian or Latino, but I am Samoan. Born at Mato'atua Hospital, raised. I grew up bilingual. Most of the time, my parents spoke English to us at home, but when they were at work, our house girls spoke Samoan. All of our cousins spoke Samoan, so we grew up bilingual, and it's very common. Even today, when I talk with my siblings, we go back and forth between Samoan and English. And I lived in Samoa until I graduated from high school. Loved it. Very glad that I was raised there. I don't feel I missed out on anything that kids growing up in America or New Zealand had. I would go back and do it all over again. But, growing up in Samoa, you take for granted all of the resources around you. My dad was a Matai, being the eldest girl. I had to go with him to all the CEs and the fa'alavelave. I did so begrudgingly. I regret it now that I didn't pay attention more, especially with the line of work that I'm in now. I'm like, oh man, I wish I had paid attention. I wish I had asked my dad these things, on that. But, c'est la vie. That's life. And so I do best with what I can remember. And I've lived here in Hawaii since 1978. Came to school at BYU Hawaii, and married a local Samoan boy from Faleniu. And so Hawaii is my home. My siblings try to get me to move to the mainland. It's cheaper and all this. I always say, "Esa ko ulu." Can you walk to the beach in 5 minutes? I'm fine with Hawaii. It's a good midway point between the mainland and Samoa. My mother lives with me. My dad passed away over 20 years ago. He's buried in Samoa. And I don't have any siblings living there, but the blood, the koko still calls me back to Samoa quite often. And this is the longest that I have not been back to Samoa. It's been 3 years. And it's, it's kind of, you're getting that withdrawal feelings like I need to go to Samoa on that. So I love being here in the village where it kind of reminds me of home.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Growing up in Samoa might be a lot different than growing up here in Hawaii. And so you shared that you grew up in Samoa. Could you tell me some of the things that you most appreciated about Samoa, about growing up in Samoa? I can't say I grew up in Samoa. I was born and raised in Hawaii, so I would love to hear what your outlook would be about that. Well,
we did not have warm water. We did not have warm water until I was a teenager. So we were just used to ka'eleing in the Waimalulu. If you wanted a warm shower, you showered before 4 p.m. When the pipes were warmed by the sun. It was very common that we would have power outages. We didn't even have TV until I must have been about 12. And I remember TV finally came to Kukuila, KVZK. And we had our TV, one channel. And the TV did not go on until 6 p.m. I think it was about 6 p.m. in the evening. And so we'd finish our loku, finish eating, and then we'd turn on the TV. And of course, they would always start with a loku. But because it was on TV, we were just like, can't believe we're watching it. And then after that, we'd have, I think it was the Electric Company and Sesame Street came on black and white TV. And the most popular thing on TV was big time wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's when we would see right outside, the windows in our house, the whole village or everybody would gather around. So we position it over here and everybody would be watching big time wrestling and they all cheer for their favorite wrestler. Those were some of the fun memories. And then eventually we had 2 channels and then color TV was introduced. And the other things I really enjoyed was just playing outdoors. We built our own forts. We always, after school, we'd come home. And, all these things that grew in our yard abundantly. We hardly ever ate apples. That was that was very special if you had an apple or a pear. So we grew up on mangoes, guava, and just sasalapa. We had a big lama tree in our yard, and so we'd always go kufilama and kae them and save our akwakoas and eat them and climb the V tree. That was my favorite, was V. But yeah, nature's grocery store was in our yard. We had, before we went to school in the morning, we had to pick laulu, in the evening before we go to bed, have to go pick all the ulu, the leaves, not just ulu leaves, but the leaves, make sure the yard was clean. And people are shocked, when they hear, they said, you had to do those kind of fe'aus? I went, yeah. We had to fafanga the pua'a. Every evening we have to go around and aume aya pua'a, and take it to feed the pigs. And my brothers had to go make the umu, on Sunday mornings. So yeah, we grew up doing all the Samoan fe'aus and loved it. It was adventurous. Yes. For us. But of course, we also had our palangi side. And because we grew up living right next to the Church College of Western Samoa, Aimamonga, we had all our palangi friends, and that's how we learned to ride bikes and some of those things. Yeah. So it was fun.
That's great.
Cherished my Samoan childhood.
Yes. That's great. There is a lot of Samoans in this generation now have been born either in the U.S. continental, in New Zealand, or in Australia, or maybe even in Hawaii. There seems to be a need to want to connect back to their identity as Samoans or as Tangata Pasifika. A lot of them also sometimes feels that they're not Samoan enough. They're not good enough to be Samoan. They're also not Palangi. So they're kind of stuck in this rut, maybe you could say, right in the middle. What could you say? How do we? Because there's a saying that says, it's not how much blood you have in you, but who you are and the manners and the morals and the values that you carry with you. What would you say to a Samoan child or teenager or young adult or young couple that are struggling because they don't speak Samoan, or maybe you come from a background that spoke Samoan and that you lived in Samoa? A lot of us didn't have that opportunity. What would you say to them?
That's the predicament my children are in. They were all born and raised here in Hawaii, and although they know they're Samoan, I know, and some of them are more interested in being Samoan than the others are. And my advice is, if you're interested in learning your culture, do it. Learn on that. If you're not, it doesn't mean you're not any less Samoan than somebody else, So we shouldn't degrade those who are not interested in the culture. Really, it's all about being a good person. And I think that's the best thing you can do if you weren't raised in the islands, is be the best representative of your ainga on that. That's transformative. You talk about fa'aloalo. That's not just a Samoan value. That's value for a lot of other cultures. So how you represent your family is the best contribution you can make to identifying yourself as Samoan, because nobody wants to be connected to somebody who is somebody that we're not proud of. Like you say, even though if it's somebody who's not Samoan, but we're all mimika. Jason Momoa. Right. Samoa lang Momoa. On that, because we're proud of who he is as an actor. That's the same thing with those who are Samoan. As long as you are the best version of your family that you can be, everybody will want to find some kind of a connection to you, and they'll be proud to say, "Ole kam Samoa, ole kenge Samoa," because of who they are. But kiki, they're into to criminal activities. Ele fa'aloalo, even though say Ole Samoa, say elea o ia.
Right.
It's like, no, we don't want them closely connected with us. But yeah, just be the best representative for your family, and people will be proud to say that you are Samoan.
Yeah. There seems to be, and so speaking, as you speak to our generation now that weren't born in the islands or that were living in Hawaii or in the mainland or in New Zealand or Australia, a lot of the oppression, and I use that word with the utmost respect, sometimes comes from within our own people. A lot of you don't know how to speak Samoan. Italy, Samoa, so you're lesser than we are, or we're smarter than you are. In my own experience, Delsa, I've never really witnessed people from the outside. They adore our culture.
Yeah.
It's within our own culture. Could you kindly speak to those who were raised in Samoa or maybe in the Pacifica that, like yourself, that maybe have that mentality that they're not Samoan enough?
Yeah, we are our own worst critics on that. And even me, born and raised in Samoa, but there's a lot that I lack as far as knowledge of the culture. I don't profess to be a cultural expert, but what I'm good at is loving my culture. And so yes, I couldn't stand up and give a launga, feloainga as good as I would like to. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the regular cultural things, and I don't pretend to know, but I admire those who do, and I try to encourage those who do. But I love my culture, and there are things of my culture that I would say that I'm good at, and that is knowing the values for that. And so when I hear cases like that, because there have been people who have come to me and in tears, and they say, "Man, I was just insulted," and I said, you go back and tell them who died and made them an expert. They have a lot of flaws themselves. So be careful when you cast that stone, because you might be good in the launga, but you might not be so good in me fa'aleanganga. And we know nowadays in Samoa, the spiritual side. Also, you might be good in something else, but maybe you're not too good in the giving. Everybody has their strengths. So we have to be very careful when we put somebody down. And so if you profess to be, I'm very Samoan, but you're not doing those things that make your people proud of you, expect to get a lot of flack, because Samoans are good at dishing it out, and you better be good at receiving it too. I mean, that's one thing about growing up in Samoan is we all learn to have thick skin. Sometimes my kids, they'll dread, oh my gosh, when we have the family reunion, they'll say, oh my gosh, this auntie is going to comment about how big I am, or, we just put it out. Delsa wala po, it just comes.
It's so normal for them, right?
Yeah, you just have to be thick-skinned, and now in this day and age where we're trained to be a little more sensitive with our comments, we have to be a little bit careful, for that. I wish there was a single formula that I could give each person when they come and say that they have been degraded because they're not Samoan enough. All I can say is, are you proud of who you are? If you are, then just, don't worry about it. Right. Just tell them, I'm trying to be the best that I know how to be. they can't condemn you for that.
Right.
You know, everybody's circumstances are different, and don't let those things bother you. Just keep going. You know, and that's like here in Laie. We all have falavilabis, and they're some of the younger generation that want to learn. We say every time there's a falavilabi, alu. Go, oh, but I don't know what to do. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The family will see that you want to learn. Show up with your ie. Fai lo ie. Fai fa'alei lo ofu. Don't show up with ofu lima muku unless you're going to be doing the omu.
Right.
Go over there and you're like, no, I'm here to learn. How can I help? They will appreciate that. They will give you the opportunity because they know you want to learn.
Right.
But don't come and then wait out there in the shadows. No, that means you don't want to help. You're just there out of duty, but you're not really there because you want to learn.
Agreed.
So it's going to be tough at the beginning, but once they see you're really sincere about wanting to learn, they're going to help you. You know, and they're going to be a lot more forgiving.
You know, it's as I hear you speak to our people, especially and encouraging them to be the best them that they possibly can be. It shows such a clear reflection of who you are, Delsa, as a person. To share also your own vulnerabilities, because none of us will be that perfect Samoan, right? But what we do with our lives will really reflect on our families, and if we can put the best part of our families up, then I also hear you sharing with those who were born in the islands, or who maybe might be maybe think that they might have a little bit of an edge over another Samoan that is not the truth, right? We're all good in our own different. If we come together, I think that would be the best part of Samoa, that we all can shine and show our love for our culture together. No one above anyone, no one below anyone, but that we have that mutual respect. And so it's not foreign or a surprise that you're here at the Polynesian Culture Center with the wealth of knowledge that you have, and your heart. Truly, wealth of knowledge is great. And we can definitely see the love that you have for our Pacifica people, not just for Samoa, but for all of our indigenous Pacifica people. And so your title here at the Polynesian Culture Center is?
I'm the Vice President of Cultural Presentations.
Nice. Can you share a little bit about your role here at the Polynesian Culture Center as a proud Samoan woman?
You know, I'm just so blessed and fortunate. When I had received some scholarships to come to college, the thing that made me decide on Hawaii was the PCC. That's what, because some alumni from here went back to Samoa and they were teaching, and they started up a Polynesian dance group, and I started going. I was about 13, 14 years old, and I learned to do the poi balls, I learned the hula, and I really, really enjoyed it. So they told me that that's what they had done here at PCC while going to school. And so when the BYU Hawaii offered me a scholarship, I said I wanted to come here, and I've never regretted that decision. I've enjoyed, you know, tell them, I actually graduated from PCC. BYU was just the justification, you know, but I would have loved to do this, you know, but my parents expected me to go to school, and school was good. BYU Hawaii was good to me. So when I graduated and PCC offered me a full-time job, I said, yes, you know, I'll take it. And continuing to work with the different cultures, I really enjoy learning about different people. My major was travel and tourism management, because I loved learning about different places and cultures, and I love to travel for that. So I worked in the theater department as a performer. I also worked in the brass band when we had a band here at PCC. I played, you know, musical instrument in Samoa in my high school.
Nice.
And I believe believe it or not, my very first job here at PCC was in the Maori village.
Oh, wow.
I worked one semester in the Maori village until the shows realized that I could play keyboard, and then they said, we need you in the shows. And then for the rest of my college career, I worked in the shows. But anyway, so after I graduated, they offered me a position to manage the guides department. And then I was moved around to different departments, and then eventually became the director of cultural presentations, which includes all of the shows at PCC, the villages, and the tour guides. And then when Longo Apelu, who was my mentor, when he retired from PCC, I became the vice president, took over his position of cultural presentations. And so with that role, not only, do I get to manage the cultures and everything that supports the cultures, but one of the things that I really enjoy is that I'm also chairperson of the We Are Samoa Festival. Awesome. We are in the 29th year, and next, the festival includes the World Fire Knife Championships. And the World Fire Knife Championships was started by Pulefano Ngaleai. That was his brainchild. Over 30 years ago, our CEO of the PCC, who has two titles, Palangi, but he was bestowed the title of Mafi Whakapotu by the King of Tonga, and then also Ngalu Malemana by Maliatoa. He came here and did his nofo here in Laie. So anyway, Ngalu Malemana challenged us, we need to come up with some cultural special events. And so the Samoans came up, Pulefano suggested the World Fire Knife Competition. And and he also suggested that we take over the arts festival that the high school was doing under O'Brien. It was getting more than what O'Brien could handle. And he said, gladly, I want this to continue, but I just can't run it anymore. And so PCC came up with the We Are Samoa Festival. Grateful to Jerome Gray for allowing us to use that title, gave us his blessing to use that title, and so we've been doing it now for 29 years, with the high schools doing their Fa'afifianga and then the World Fire Knife Competition. It has evolved over the years where we now have the women's competition, women's Ailao included in that, and it's grown. It's grown so much that we sell out the 2,700 seat theater, and we've had to live stream the events because it's that popular. So every year I ask our marketing team, where did our viewers come from? Do you know that we have had viewers, of course, naturally you would expect the Pacific, all through the Pacific and the Pacific Rim, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and then of course all across the mainland USA. We have viewers from Europe, from Israel, Okinawa. It's really interesting to see. And I said, Israel, who in Israel is watching us? And but I love that it has this worldwide appeal. And you can see it even in the competitors that we have for the Aila'afi. Competitors from Japan, from Taiwan, from Tahiti, from the Cook Islands. They're coming from all over, and so the sport of Ailao is really international now. And so what we try to do is not only host the competition, but make sure that all these warriors that come understand its cultural roots. So that it doesn't become just a baton with flames on the end, that there are specific traditional motions of the Ailao that make it the Ailao. We want them to know about Ololetuli and how, he added flame to it. We want them to know about Pulefano Ngaleai and Tafili Ngaleai, and, we want them to meet these other Ailao brothers in the world. And so we're glad to be able to facilitate and host that and be a place that fire knife dancers, want to come to. We last year when we had our evaluation meeting with the judges, and some of the competitors, and they said one of the biggest draws of the fire knife competition is performing on that stage. We had no idea what an honor that was for competitors. I mean, to us, it's just our regular PCC night show stage, but so it says, no, it's being able to say we danced on that stage. And then we went like, wow, this really is something to them. And so we said, okay, we got to make sure we have it on that stage. If it means that much to them, and it's what gives them that passion to get here so that they can be exposed and be picked up for big fire knife contracts, we'll do it. Because of this competition, Cirque du Soleil came, they recruited dancers. Yeah, Cirque du Soleil has been recruiting from us for years. Disney has been recruiting from us for years. And we're really proud to say that, you know, some of the performers at the Festival of the Lion King in Disney World were, you know, got their jobs because of exposure from here on that. So we're glad to be able to help these warriors be able to launch themselves into meaningful careers. Because, you know, Kako Samoa, it's not only about us as individuals. We're secondary. It's about our family. And so when I see people like, you know, Pati Levasa, our first 3-time world champion, when he got picked up, you know, to perform in some of these places and the money came in, what was one of the first things he did? Faule fale o ngā mākua. You know, I was just like, oh, yes, you know, fame didn't get to the head of these warriors that ele ngalo lako ainga, where they come from, you know, and they build that home for their family, and then they take care of themselves second. You know, the same thing happens. Falaniko Solomona over there performing at Hong Kong Disney. Same thing with his winnings. You know, and you know, and I thought, oh, good boys, good guys. So it's nice that they still remember those Samoan values, you know, as they become better known for their skill in Ailao. And then, of course, you know, at the high school, you're a prime example. I remember you dancing for Moana Lua, just this scrawny, tall kid, just in there dancing, and then next thing I knew, you're performing as a musician from Moana Lua, and then you graduated, and you came back and you were helping as an advisor, and then you helped other schools, and now you're speaking Samoan, you know, Mawalo Swafamakai, you know, Kalo Pea, you know, and I would like to think that the We Are Samoa Festival helped, you know, helped you, you know, gain that interest and wanting to know more about your culture. And so as long as it helps our youth, you know, become better individuals, we're going to continue doing this for as long as possible.
You know, it's you sharing a lot about your position here at the Polynesian Culture Center and the many great things that the Polynesian Culture Center has done for our communities, because there's quite a lot that this place that we call the Polynesian Culture Center has contributed to some of the lack of identity that I think some of our youngsters have. Like I shared with you before, I grew up here in Hawaii, and it was Aiea, but it's okay.
Oh, Aiea. Did I say Moana Lua? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No.
Sorry. Aiea.
Okay. No, but you know, this has become a hub for a lot of people to reconnect. It's like almost a reconnection place where they can come back and reconnect to their identities. You are right. I was very inspired. We Are Samoa gave me a platform to share my love for the culture. I did not speak Samoan either when I got out of high school. I learned how to speak Samoan. My passion and drive was to learn how to speak it. And I'm thankful today that I can speak Samoan as well as I do. I'm still not Atoa either, but I try my very best, and it's the desire that I have. And so thank you, Delsa, and the Polynesian Culture Center for really you folks have given an opportunity for a lot of these kids and a lot of our generation who grew up away from Samoa, the opportunity to reconnect with our Samoan identities. And so we want to just say thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. You know, the whole purpose that PCC exists is for education. Educating our guests that come here about the cultures of Polynesia, educating our employees who maybe did not have the opportunity to learn their own culture. You know, they can learn here. And, you know, also providing an education for the students that come here, and all they have to do is share their culture, and it pays for their tuition. So when they graduate, they leave not only with a degree in hand, they have work experience and better knowledge of who they are or what they want to become. You know, and I'll use this Samoan village as an example. Of course, as much as possible, we try to hire people with Samoan blood, you know, in them, so they're presenting their culture. But sometimes it doesn't always work that way. One time we had a Malaysian boy. They said, this kid from Malaysia really wants to work in the village. Please, can we hire him? I said, does he look Samoan? And they said, yes, he does. And I said, is he willing to learn as much of the culture as he can? I said, yes, so he did. Felix came, we hired him. He learned to climb the coconut tree.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, everything. He was Samoan. He was so proud to be Samoan, you know, even though he was from Malaysia.
Right.
Well, he graduated, went on to culinary school. Now he's back as our executive chef in the restaurant. He is our executive chef, and he still comes over to the Samoan village. I says, Felix, I'm glad you haven't forgotten your roots. I don't care what your passport says, your genealogy, you're still part Samoan for that. But even, you know, Samoan kids that come from Samoa, raised in the city areas or from the mainland, they come here, they learn to climb the tree, they learn how to lalanga, you know, they learn how to si'oleafi, they learn how to make a umu. They're so proud to be able to do that. They're so proud to be able to show their families what they can do. You know, and I love when I come to the village and I see Samoan families wander through and they just sit over in the umukuka area, watch the boys do the fe'au, and the older folks reminisce. I love that as they share with their grandchildren and their children. Oh yeah, Papa used to do that every Sunday. You know, we do this, and to just hear those stories, and this is what this place does. It helps people reconnect, refresh, and to reminisce. You know, the good life of growing up in the islands.
It's amazing that throughout our Talk Story session today, you shared a lot about being able to share our culture to even people who are not biologically Samoan or wasn't born with Samoan blood. And I think that's one of the beauties about the Polynesian Culture Center with Taitai's Pe'oi, who has the heart to share. Sometimes e yelia ngangam naole o tato tangata e musu e lima mau e mea tato watu nuu e mea tato wanga nuu and you and your position here and your vision here, and alongside the many who support this vision of sharing our culture with the world, really highlights le ano moni lava o le taua o le fasoa I mea nei, because we've, like you shared, we have inspired a kid from Malaysia just through our culture and our values and our way of life and the things we do. Please speak to our people as far as passing on this knowledge with not just here at the Polynesian Culture Center, but passing on the knowledge from us, from this generation maybe, to our kids, or maybe I'm a second generation migrant from American Samoa. My mother and father was first. The concern is that the next generations, if we don't pass and share and help and create platforms such as this, it doesn't need to be the Polynesian Culture Center. It could be you just having Samoan language class in your garage. Or could you please share a little bit about that?
So my thought is, ole alea o ngā o leiloi no meta uia be ale fa'asoa. What is the value in knowing these things if you're not going to share it? How is it going to be perpetuated? You know, if you die with this knowledge, there it goes. On that, because who's to say that the knowledge you have, the next person might add to it, you know, and it becomes even greater than what you knew. And so knowledge was not meant for us to keep. But on the other hand, I can understand why some people hold on, because they don't want to just give it to anybody. You know, they want to make sure as they share this knowledge, it's to the right person who's going to use it properly. You know, it's just like that scripture. You're not going to cast your pearls before swine on that, because there are some very important facets of our culture that you only give to those people that you know will value it and will use it for the right purposes. You know, it's sacred knowledge on that. And so it's meant to be shared, but also you need to make sure you share it with the right people for that. And so what we do is we try to share as much as we can, but we also find those who want to know more. The ones that are very inquisitive, you know, ask a lot of why. Then as you see their desire and their intent, then you can start sharing more and you go deeper into the treasures, you know, and you find out their capacity for wanting to understand more. And there's not too many of them, but once you find them, then those are the ones you feel comfortable, you know, imparting these treasures to, because then you know, okay, it's safe with them. They're going to continue this correctly on to the next generation. You know, it's not just language, you know, it's certain art forms. There, you know, people ask, are there still buildings like this in Samoa? You know, and a few years ago, I said, not too many. They're in this shape, but they all have metal roofs. That's what's convenient. But, you know, thank goodness that some of our leaders saw that some of these art forms, traditional art forms, were dying out. The tufungas were dying and their craft was going with them. So they started to commission. Some of these villages commissioned you know, and we're going to do it the traditional style. So if there's not a reason for these tufunga and these cultural practitioners to practice their art form, they're going to lose it. So, you know, people, you know, same thing with making of the art of siapo was dead in Samoa for many years. You know, it was only Mary Pritchard who was doing her stylized form of tapa that I knew of in existence. But any siapo we needed in Samoa was siapo konga. Thank goodness the Tongans kept up the art form. All of a sudden, the Samoans realized that there was a revenue stream out there for these crafts, you know, and by doing that, in order to be able to provide for their families, reviving the art making of siapo and making the upeti and doing all of that, they did a couple things. They were able to provide for their families using traditional methods. They were able to revive a dying art form on that, because whether it's tourists or other Samoans were willing to buy it. And so I'm really grateful that some of these things have come back. And so PCC has tried to do that. Tuyone Pulotu, who was responsible for building a lot of our buildings here in the village.
It's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah. So the Kingdom of Tonga, they realized that there was nobody who could build Tongan fales. So the monarchy commissioned him to come to Tonga and teach how to build the Tongan fales before nobody, before that art was completely lost. And so he went back to Tonga, to teach some of the knowledge that he had to the current generation so that it wouldn't be lost. And now you see some of those methods being practiced.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, even the art of, fafau, lashing. We had a Matai that worked in our physical facilities department who had that skill. And so he would come and he would lash, and we would have the younger boys come and learn from him how to fafau correctly. Now he's retired, and we've been able to keep up this art form because of the sharing of that knowledge. And I'm grateful to him for doing that. So retaining knowledge just for the sake of retaining it is very selfish on that, So if we want our Samoan culture to survive, we have to be willing to share, even if it's to a non-Samoan. I mean, where would we be without Kramer's books? Those volumes. How many knowledgeable Samoans, they value those volumes by Kramer, and thank goodness a non-Samoan captured all of that information, because we use it a lot today. Yeah, so, the Palangis had their uses too, Irkako culture, being able to take these photographs, draw these sketches, record these things that they saw, so that we have them, to be able to refer to in our day.
Last question before I kind of close out everything. The Polynesian Culture Center has done amazing things via the We Are Samoa Festival, via the World Fire Knife Competition. A lot of the sharing as you shared, and I recap what you're sharing, that because there are some yasinas that we do hold dear. Do you feel that a lot of our via tatau, via clothing, siva, do you think that it's becoming a lot more commercialized, or do you feel like we're at a medium right now? It's okay. It's not, we haven't gone way off board, and if you do feel that we were okay, how do we sustain it? And vice versa. If you don't feel that we're okay, how do we diminish some of the things that we are doing as far as commercializing our culture? A lot of things now in the modern world comes with a lot of monetary returns.
Exploiting.
Yes. And so before, when we used to go and obviously nowadays, well, there's none of that. It's more, well, there is some, but it's more, this is my cost. And so the sharing is not sharing, but it's almost now an exchange. So do you feel like it's commercialized, or do you feel like we're okay for now?
Well, I think it depends on each situation. To just kind of categorically generalize everything, I think would be wrong. I think there are some instances where people have exploited the culture, and that there's they're doing it for the money and not really for the perpetuation of the culture. But then there are other cases where you see they have taken the culture and presented it in a new way so that it appeals to the current generation. I tell you, I love what comes out of New Zealand. New Zealand is very progressive, with how the culture is perpetuated, but yet they know its roots. That's the thing that I appreciate. They understand the roots of the culture, but then they know how to present it in a very aggressive way. I've seen some of these modern dance theater things and how they've used some of the Samoan sivas to present things. I thought, man, that is so creative, but I don't feel in any way that it is detracted from the Samoan culture. I think they've just taken it, presented it in a new way. I mean, I'm pretty sure that when Ololetuli let those Nifo Otis, lit them on fire, people, Samoa. me palangi, because nobody had ever done it before. It wasn't until the 1940s that he put the fire to the nifo ailau for that. But now, I dare you to find anybody to say that's not Samoan. Oh, no, the ailau afi is very much Samoan, but it evolved. Culture evolves, otherwise it dies on that. And so the way we do things today is different from how it was done 50 years ago. Is it wrong? I don't know. It depends on the context. When I went to get my swafamakai in Safunge, the Sa'avar Ainga there explained, he says, in case some of you wonder, because I had several nieces and nephews younger than me that also received their swafamakai at that same ngofo. He says, "Keo fa masal salo mai oko, pola ale me wale fa nga ia me masangi kako akungu e fa longa le like the puaa." And he said, because there must have been about 20 of us who got various titles that day. He said, "Can you imagine if each of you had brought puaa? Ofengi frisa kewai umameya, ema mau, and so the practical nature of that, he says, that's why we use kupe nowadays. That's what's practical. That's what makes sense. I thought, yeah, it makes sense. He said, there's only so many makais e kufai for if you had to penga all these puas and so many faifeaus and he said there would have been too many and it would have gone to waste. So we had, I think we had like a couple puas there, for that, but everything else was done with kupe. And I thought, okay, that makes sense, in this day and age, because that's what's convenient for us. And then in some cases, we'll go to, we've gone to CEs and and they use what's convenient nowadays. Ole moa mai Costco, or ole apa moa, ole apa soda, ole pusa crackers. Nothing wrong with that. That's what's convenient for them. It's because what is the motive behind them doing it this way? In order to do it the real traditional way. But we've gone to other falafelaves where they get the cooked chicken, wrap it, au maile kalo, fauli, keu faalele, and they do olengiu wa umanga sui, and instead of the dollar bill, and it was like wow, this is the real thing. But we value the work that went into that, and so instead of faikio, no, you appreciate, where
that's very hard people.
Yeah, you appreciate that this came from the heart, came from the heart, and this is what's convenient, to them. So, as far as Samoan music, there's some very contemporary that's very catchy, and I think it's okay. And then there's some that is still very conservative, more traditional stuff. There's those that love Richard Parker. There's those that still love, 5 stars. There's no one set way that's right. It's according to your audience. And that's why the Samoa continues to grow and thrive, because it's been able to adapt to the current culture. Yeah.
Thank you so much
welcome.
For that. And just listening to you share about suinga o leang no me fai which is the intent and are willing to tell to and to serve and to now or tap in for a falafel. And so whether it's a soda cracker for the favela or
the thought.
It's the thought.
Exactly.
And I think that's the true essence. We're getting to the point, Delsa, where sometimes people are giving abundance of things. That's going to be my final question. We have come to a point where they have gotten just a tremendous amount of things via el falualo. What would you say about our Samoa in that aspect.
Yeah, e sa o lava oe. O isi kaimi, wa whaonga ia whaalave o kakoa nguu. E kau vai a inga. E whape ki kilo aku o maile a inga malako pua malako wafeka la. Oh, we have to make more. Whaalua wafeka ko. You know, now they've lost the whole purpose of why we do that because they're trying to outdo each other.
Oh, yeah.
And that puts an unnecessary burden on the family. And that's why some of our younger generation, when you hear the word fa'alavelave, fa'asamoa, they don't want anything to do with it because they've seen how e kinga inga lako ainga. And, you know, a lot of people have asked me, you know, like, how did your dad do it? We noticed that ele finga warko ainga pe afaiko fa'alavelave. You know, why? And I said, my dad's philosophy was always faile mea e mafaile ainga. He never gave a set amount.
Do what you can.
He never gave a set amount. And I follow the same thing today, you know, when we have our fa'alavellaves. My kids, all born and raised here, but I want them to participate and understand the act of sharing in a time of need. So I asked them, you know, we've got Auntie's father-in-law's funeral coming in. If you would like to give, please, I need your money by this day. I don't tell them how much to give because I want them to give from the heart. E sili le au mai o le 5 kala, o le au mai willingly, lo o le au mai o se lau kala, ai musu e whaamumuru mai. You know, you can feel it. I want whatever they give to come out of love. And I told them, and there's no comparison like, oh, you know, I gave more than you. No, that's what they could give at this time. You know, this time I might only be able to give 50. 2 weeks from now, I get my tax return, I might be able to give 200. That's what I can give at this time. No, and so I think if we do that, say, you give ave maleloko mama. Ave maleloko mama, maleloko alofa on that. Don't worry about what others say. You know, don't compare to others like, oh, ele lava, you know, mako sosoangi, you know. You give what you can give. People will feel the love on that. And that's the true essence of the Samoa. On that, it will never be a burden to anybody on that. And yeah, we should never, my philosophy is we should never dictate befila fa'i au mai. You know, that's very hard.
I mean, it's funny, as a Matai now, I do put together a lot of our family saongas, tap in for them, love and stuff. But I really, just listening to you today share about the reason the done of these things is because
officio. Yeah.
It's a pride thing, right? I will and if they're willing to give $1,000, that's great, and they can, that's great. And if they're willing to give $50, that's also great.
Because what is the fa'aumi olesi'i? What is it? What is this? What is the real name of the
si'i alofa?
Si'i alofa. Ele o le si'i kauva, o le si'i fia show, o le si'i fia sili. No, it's a si'i alofa, e faimale alofa on that. And when we do it out of love, the family will feel that. Right. You know, they'll understand, you know, ainga vai lima, but maybe they won't be able to give, but they're in the umukuka doing the fe'aus. Who's to say that their kaukua in the kitchen doing the fe'aus is any less than the one who came with the kongas and the pua'a and the kupe? Because they might have been back there for 3 solid days, didn't go home to their family. That's their contribution, you know. And I have relatives like that, very weak with the money, but they're always there with the aufai, with the akokalo, and they come do the fe'aus, you know.
And that's so amazing to share that your service is a lot of, especially at Atole America, a lot of American put a lot of priority and value on money, and you're putting a lot of priority to on service
Yes.
via physical prayers. All of those things are just as important as those who come with monetary.
Exactly.
So we just want to thank you tonight for this great opportunity to speak to you about some of the things that our community might be facing and some of the challenges. We only hope that through our conversations that we will be able to enlighten and empower our young generation. Not saying that we're going to go anytime soon, but our kids know the true essence of our Samoa and what it means to be Samoan. So we want to just take this time to say thank you so much. We're greatly looking forward for the We Are Samoa Festival as well as the World Fire Knife Competition. If you could just kindly share the dates.
Sure. So it's We Are Samoa this year is going to start on Wednesday, May 4th at 6 p.m. will be the junior and intermediate fire knife competition. And then on Saturday, May 7th, we're going to have the high school event. But this year it's going to be a little different. The schools have asked, because of COVID restrictions, it's hard to practice the regular Fianga format. So we're going to do a Fealofani Day. The schools will come in the morning, do their rotational workshops, but then at 11:30, we're opening it up for the public in the Pacific Theater again, and for just $15, every seat, $15, you'll come in, we'll have the students go with the cultural games, followed by a concert. None other than Jerome Gray. Yes, the legendary Jerome Gray will be here May 7th, and opening up for Jerome Gray will be the new up-and-coming group, Faiva. And just YouTube them. I know you've heard their songs, I didn't know it's, but Faiva will open for Jerome Gray. And then Umalo Jerome Gray will end with Kawalunga by the high school students, and then him singing We Are Samoa. Oh, can't get better than that, Jerome singing. Then on the following Wednesday, May 11th, we'll have our senior competition for the men and the women. Hopefully we'll have enough women competitors this year that we can still have the women's competition. And we'll do the women's finals that Wednesday night. But then on Thursday, May 12th, during our Ha Breath of Life evening show, we'll have the men's finals, where we'll crown the new world champion for this year. So that's our 29th annual We Are Samoa Festival. Also, so I forgot one other very, very important thing. On May 4th, when we open the whole festival, we're going to have a special memorial tribute that night to honor Pulefano Naleai, who passed away this year, the founder of the World Fire Knife Competition. Also, Lisona and Quince Leatawa, as well as Malo Seleni, some of our judges who have helped us for many years, and one of our own founding committee members, Tipangaleai, who passed away as well. So it's going to be a difficult year, not having some of these We Are Samoa greats, but thank goodness we have our supporters and have the high school and all of our live stream audience worldwide who will be tuning in. We Are Samoa.
Thank you so much. Avea ia ni time that wedding nga faftai to say for him tata no ni so ilisi manuia nei for I programa po nei for itama fainga I lo fali li to tumo pele malosi lo tino I mesile nganga ia awanta to ina for irnga wenga nei PCC ia pape na for na wenga tato ekalesia o no umala fanga on mato talo ia pape na fantasia to le to yete oya wai for I for fanga o lo na wenga nei PCC I mama ma to ima mangao I want so for manu ina for lo fionga ia pape na for tai tasi tato ai nga nei PCC but follow lava after. Ladies and gentlemen, we just want to thank you guys again. Thank you folks again for tuning in today. It was a privilege and an honor to sit here with none other than Delsa Atoa Moe, Delsa Atoa, and here at the beautiful PCC. We hope that you'll tune in on our next episode as we bring to you more stories told by your people, Pacifica people. Faftai.